This is me. About a year ago, I set myself a challenge to learn Japanese from zero to conversational fluency in only 6 months. I couldn't speak, read, or understand a single word of Japanese. I didn't quite make it in 6 months, but a bit more than a year later, I can finally say that I've done it. I'm fluent in Japanese. No, just joking. But I can hold a conversation with a few bumps here and there and read intermediate texts quite effortlessly. And in this video, I want to show you the simplest way to learn any language you want. Hi, my name is John. I've got a bachelor's and master's degree in computer science, and I'm currently learning my 4th language. Over the last 10 years, I've made learning new things daily one of my highest priorities. And on this channel, I share applicable tips and tricks so you can achieve your goals quicker or simply learn something new. So you want to learn a language, but you feel like you're standing in front of a massive brick wall and you have no idea how to get up. The way we get up on this wall is by building little steps, researching what to learn, finding learning communities, learning the first words, reading the first story, watching the first video, and then, oh wait, I've climbed the wall. You're building steps. Every little tiny thing you do for the goal contributes to scaling the wall. And this is where this book comes in. Atomic Habits by James Clear. It is by far one of the best books I've read over the past 10 years, and maybe the book that has helped me to achieve the most I can. Habits are the things you don't have to think about, but still do them anyway. For many of us, this is waking up in the morning, grabbing our little infinite distraction machines and start scrolling the socials. It takes basically no effort for you to do this. You don't need a reminder, and you will do it almost every day without fail. Now, this is obviously a bad habit, but it goes to show that there are little things that we will do regularly and automatically without reminders if we have done them often enough for a long enough time. The good thing is we can take advantage of this fact and train ourselves to do productive things instead or as well. For example, learning a language. Now, before I show you how I best learn a language by using a system of habits, let's talk about why habits are the best way to achieve it. First, you must understand that small daily improvements make a massive difference in the long run. We tend to look at these bigger milestone events like graduating high school, finishing a university degree, or winning a sporting event, and then think, wow, this was great, I did this one thing. But in reality, it's an accumulation of hundreds, if not thousands of hours of training or studying or whatever you've done to achieve that goal. Every single improvement you have made along the way matters. Okay, let's do some metaphoric math here. Becoming 1% better every day for a whole year results in being 37 times better by the end of it. Just imagine what that could mean for learning your language. The Japanese actually have a word for that called kaizen, known in the English-speaking business world as continuous improvement. Focus on getting 1% better every day. Second, prefer systems over goals. Goals are milestones you want to reach, for example, climbing a mountain or becoming fluent in Japanese or Spanish. And systems are the processes to reach these goals. The systems, or the little things you put in place for yourself to succeed, will make it easier and easier to keep doing what you need to be doing. James Clear provides a comprehensive list on systems to create a new habit. Because it would be a bit too much for this video, I put some of my favorites on the screen. Feel free to pause the video or take a screenshot before I show how to apply a few of them. Imagine, for example, you want to lose weight like her or get swole like him. While having this goal is fine, and you could just say, from now on, I'm going to go 2 hours to the gym every day and only eat healthy. In my experience, you're making it much harder on yourself than it needs to be. You go 2 or 3 times, go really hard, and maybe you go for a whole month, but at some point it starts fizzling out because you see little to no progress towards your big goal. And then it gets harder and harder to keep doing it. Or you eat really well for a couple of months, and then you get invited to a birthday, eat half of the cake, and you think to yourself, well, may as well just stop it now. A much better approach, and what has worked really well for myself, is starting small or slow and focusing on the process. For example, start with preparing your workout clothes every evening so you can just grab them in the morning and go for your 15-minute run. Or track how often you snack in between meals and then slowly work your way up to tracking the whole day or tracking the whole week and starting to eat healthy and more looking at your calories. Start small and let it become a habit. The third point and key to building a language learning systems using habits is creating your identity. I admit this sounds esoteric or a bit lofty, and I was skeptical at first when I read it in the book as well, but hear me out. Act like the person you want to become. Ask yourself this: would a fit person skip most of their workouts and eat a pack of chips every day? Of course not. Would someone who's a dedicated language learner make a daily effort to improve? You bet. Decide on the person you want to be, and then prove to yourself that you can be that person with small daily wins. Your daily habits are a reflection of the person you are, and every action is a vote for the person you want to become. Oh, and by the way, if you do end up missing a day of language learning or working out, skip a workout, or have a snack, guess what? It's okay, as long as you get back to it as soon as possible. Okay, now let's apply this to learning a new language. Many of you don't know where to start learning a language, so here's my simple 3-step approach that I use to best learn a language. All these points are in no particular order because you'll probably be doing them all at the same time. Some you will do more of and then less of, and you just have to know what you need in that moment. Number 1, get to know the most frequently used words in the language you want to learn. How many this is depends on the language you want to learn, more to that later. Number 2, familiarize yourself with the basic grammar. And number 3, immerse yourself in the language, as in spend time with the language, read, watch series, listen to things, that kind of stuff. And that's it. Let's take, for example, Japanese. Learn a critical amount of vocabulary. Of course, because it's Japanese, you also have to learn the accompanying kanji for those words and the 2 other writing systems. So how do you get there? Set yourself a daily task to learn X new vocabulary. For example, an Anki. Pick a number you will be very likely to fit into your day. Whether you pick 1, 5, or 50 doesn't really matter, because you can increase it or decrease it at any time you want. If you're feeling eager, aim high. But if you know that you have to work 12 hours and look after your kids and make food and do all these other things, then aim a bit lower. Again, the most important thing here is to build the habit of learning new vocabulary. And bonus tip, in my experience, this works best if you have a certain time of the day, for example, always after you get up, or always before you go to bed, or always in your lunch break. So you always have that specific time frame that you do your lessons or you do your vocabulary in. We want this action to become a regular part of your daily routine. And then you do the same with familiarizing yourself with the basic grammar. This could be, for example, standalone YouTube videos talking about one single grammar construct with skits. It could be a walkthrough of a grammar textbook. It could be all sorts of things that are up to you, whatever suits you best, as in what do you learn best from. But arguably the most important thing, and I cannot stress this enough, is spending time with the language, as in immersing yourself in the language that you want to learn. And this to me means consuming content you like. For example, watching series or reading books, reading stories, reading news, listening to podcasts, all these sort of things. Immersing is one of the best tools to improve your comprehension, solidify grammar, and learn new words. But keep in mind to create a system to do these things daily and to an extent you know for certain is manageable. For Japanese, for example, I have a daily task of 30 minutes of reading and 30 minutes of watching some sort of series like an anime or a YouTube video or listening to a podcast. And once you do all of these things daily for a few weeks, even if it's just 5 minutes each, start increasing the load little by little. And what I'm about to say is pretty obvious, but the more time you put into learning the language up to a certain degree will always yield better results. Spending 2 hours a day will usually be better than just 15 minutes a day, just because you have more exposure to the language. You train your brain to understand the language more. However, if you notice that you cannot keep up with the workload because life gets in the way, reduce it, but don't completely stop doing it. And here's another bonus tip. Add some positive feedback to your learning process. Anki, for example, has a heat map that shows you how many days you have learned and streaks and so on. And this is also why Duolingo can be a good option to get into learning a language, as it keeps pulling you back into learning daily. It wants you to keep up your streak. It wants you to do and spend more time with the language. Even if the app isn't perfect, even if I think that Duolingo by itself is a horrible tool to learn a language to fluency, I think it's a good tool to get into learning a language, and maybe even to learn a bunch of vocabulary that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. Definitely consume as much content as you can, because once you get to a point where your comprehension is so good that you don't really have to put in a lot of work anymore, it becomes so much easier to consume more content, and learning actually becomes easier. Once you feel ready, I would recommend taking a couple of italki lessons and testing out how good you are at speaking. And then if you like it, you can keep going. If not, come back to it later. Keep the habit of learning every day. And I promise you'll be positively surprised at how much you will have learned after half a year looking back on this. Like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Peace.